I want to pull up this story here we have from WUSA 9. Group to hold vigil outside Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's home in response to potential Roe v. Wade overturn. The group plans to host a vigil near Alito's home starting at 7:30 p.m., blah, blah, blah. A vigil! Oh, a vigil! Oh. So they already went to Kavanaugh's house, which is illegal. And now they're going to Alito's house, which is illegal. But don't worry, it's a vigil.
Mm-hmm. Not a protest, a vigil.
So the law says, the U.S. Code, you cannot parade or picket in front of a judge's house. I'm simplifying it, but I think it makes sense. The court precedent or the legal precedent is that due process and justice supersedes your right to free speech. Because without those processes, you can't have free speech. So in this instance, people should not be going to the homes of these justices. But anyone want to take a bet as to when or if any of these people will get charged with any kind of crime? Shaking your head already, everybody.
Well, let me tell you, if any of them do get charged, we're going to see politicians tweeting out the link to the GoFundMe to get them bailed out.
Yeah.
So this is a vigil. The definition is the act of keeping awake at times when sleep is customary. So they're just going to go sit and stay awake all night outside his house?
No, they're screaming.
If they're screaming, then it's a protest.
Right. It's semantic games, manipulation.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't.
Well, we already know that Jen Psaki has no negative words to say about these protesters. She's like, well, people sometimes feel very passionate. Yeah, they felt passionate on January 6th, and you have a very different view of that.
Well, I mean, there's January 6th is different from showing up to someone's house, but showing up to someone's house is overt terror.
Worse in some ways.
Worse in some ways. In many ways, actually. But Jen Psaki did walk this back. She came out and she was like, she tweeted. It's probably not even her. It's like some intern tweeting, like sent out a message. And she was just like, violence can never be tolerated and people should feel safe. It's like, I missed the part, Jen, where you included don't go to the homes of these justices, which they're doing. So I think I was talking about this earlier. A lot of people say it's worse now than it's ever been. But then people like to point out the assassination attempts of the past and the weather underground, the weathermen and the bombings and stuff and the death. I think back then we had acute spikes of political extremism. And today we have a low, consistent rumbling of extremism, which is worse. It's death by 1,000 cuts. The way I explain it is, if we in the past had an assassination attempt, that would be like someone taking a pickaxe to the hull of your ship. Boom, they punch a hole in it, the water's spraying through, and you're like, quick, we better patch this hole up. And everyone panics and you rush and you patch the hole up. Today, it's 1,000 small holes, and you can't patch them up fast enough. It is death by 1,000 cuts. So this low-level rumbling that is affecting every level of government, that's consistent. I mean, I'll put it this way. I've been saying for how long? Tensions are escalating, potential civil war or strife or whatever, some kind of hyperpolarization, then geographic polarization. And then we get a story about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. When I even said before the story came out, that I think abortion could be a catalyst for another civil war. And not just me, Stephen Marsh said it. He's the guy who wrote the book, The Next Civil War. And now, sure enough, it drops. They're going to overturn it. They're holding firm with the latest leaks. People are already starting to protest in front of justices' homes. Law students are defying the idea of the sanctity of the court. How are we going to pull this together and get past this in any meaningful way?
It's really hard to reestablish deterrence once it's been lost, right? And that deals like in the international arena with military strategy, whether it's law enforcement or just basic norms and ethics. Once one side, it's like that driver that everybody hates who just kind of realizes that I can actually just cut everybody off and I can just cut across traffic and make turns as long as I don't get caught by I might be inconveniencing everybody else, but I'm going to get to where I want to go quicker than anybody else. And he realizes maybe on some level that if everybody started doing that, then nobody's getting anywhere that they're trying to go. But he knows that the good faith of those other people means that they're not going to do it. So he can get away with it and he gets there. And once you have kind of allowed that to metastasize and become normal for certain people, or even, it can spread. I mean, the real frightening thing that people have been talking about for a long time is that what happens when the right starts acting this way. Now, they have there are reasons that they wouldn't, ideologically maybe. There are also, obviously, we see January 6th, there are law enforcement reasons why they wouldn't do it. They get treated very differently. But if they just decided to ignore that stuff and they started responding to things violently and they started showing up to judges' homes they didn't like, at that point, you've lost control of, and the only way to regain control is to probably use a pretty extraordinary amount of force, because you have a bunch of people who don't think that you're going to do it.